let us start. So officially, officially, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and welcome to the session. This session is about formative e-assessment as a tool for learning and supporting the development of self-regulated learning process. And presentation will be given by our colleagues, Dr. Kinga Sipos, and Ursula Raemy from Switzerland, the University of Bern. And as usually, we at the beginning ask you to listen and follow the presentation for approximately 30 minutes. And after that, you will have opportunity to ask questions. And I'll also share with you a chat Q&A link here. So it is a link where you can put questions, and then after the presentation, the colleagues will answer the questions. And of course, you will have also opportunity to ask questions by using your voice afterwards. But first of all, let me give Kinga and Ursina opportunity to talk and to use their 30 minutes as best as I can on this interesting topic.
Thank you very much for the introduction. First of all, I would like to express our gratitude for the organizers for giving us this opportunity to present our work. So my name is Kinga Sipos, and I am from the Mathematical Institute of University of Bern. And me and Ursina Raemy will be showcasing a collaborative project that we have been working on for the last year together, and together also with the third colleague, Natalie Borter, who cannot be present now. So the title of the talk incorporates our primary goal, namely to promote the development of self-regulated learning processes, which, as we all know, is crucial for learning mathematics. And it names also the main tool used by us to reach this goal, namely the formative e-assessments. The framework of this project is the introductory mathematics course for economists and social scientists at the University of Bern. Now let me show you the plan, how we are going to go through this presentation. So we will start by presenting the old course format together with the challenges that I experienced in the previous 3 years when I was teaching this course. And this will be followed by our goals and the changes that we introduced partially already and we aim to introduce in the future, and which we hope that bring us closer to our goals. After this, we are going to focus on students' feedback to understand how did they experience the new course elements that we introduced in the fall semester of 2022. And finally, we present the first results of our data analysis, which confirm that our goals make sense indeed. In the end, we are going to mention the future perspectives, so some future steps that we want to implement as well. So let me proceed to the course format now. So as I mentioned already, the target audience is a group of first-year students of economists and social scientists, and this is a very large group. So we have over 400 students regularly. This course is worth of 6 ECTS points. The duration is 2 semesters. And in the first semester, we have 4 hours of lecture and 2 hours of exercises. And in the second semester, we have half of these activities. So just 2 hours course and 1 hour of exercises. Classically, as learning materials, we use the textbook and weekly exercise sets, which are then discussed with the assistant. And the teaching staff is just composed out of 1 lecturer and 1 assistant. The evaluation is a classical exam, 90-minute written exam, and at the end of both semesters. And each of these consists of 8 exercises with multiple tasks, and both parts contribute 50% to the final grade. Yeah, so this is the general context and the way how we used to give this course. And now let me present the challenges related to this course format and to the subject in general. So the first challenge is actually the subject itself. We know that students have often very strong attitude towards mathematics, which has a significant impact on their performance. So many don't really understand what can they use mathematics for, or why is that important for their major, as for studying economics in this specific case. Many of them say that mathematics is simply not for them. And yeah, we are sure that you experienced or you heard similar kind of messages or claims and questions from your students as well, if you worked in a similar context. So they say many times, yeah, like, what does mathematics have to do with my major? Or mathematics is just for others, the smarter ones. I never really understood what mathematics is really about, or I have always been bad in mathematics. Yeah, so this is related to the first point. Then another challenge of teaching mathematics for the first year students is that they have no or barely no experience with self-regulated learning processes. At least this is the situation in Switzerland. But we know from the literature that in other countries, a similar phenomenon can be experienced as well. And the students, in addition to that, students are also not aware about the importance of learning regularly, which they greatly need to engage with the course materials consistently throughout the semester, to be able to integrate the new mathematical knowledge and skills into their set of tools. So in mathematics, this plays an especially important role because many concepts are built on top of each other. So this is essential for achieving good learning outcomes. And finally, the third challenge consists in the implications of frontal lecturing, which we do classically in these courses. So in these lectures, students are just sitting passively, and there is no opportunity for giving them personal feedback. Yeah, so this is our starting point, and these are the challenges that I could experience in the previous years, and these led me to formulate the following goals. So when about a year ago, when I was designing the current course format, I formulated the following points as goal. So we would like to create a new course format, or we wanted to create a course format that supports the development of regular learning habits, involves students more actively in the learning process, this way indirectly positively affecting also their engagement, allows for reacting to audience-specific difficulties. So for me as a lecturer, it's important to also understand in such a large course what are those topics where students have the most difficulties. And we would like to create such a framework, or we created such a framework where this becomes possible. And then these issues, these difficulties can be then clarified in the courses. We also wanted to create such a course format which enables for automated personalized feedback. And then based on my prior experience in designing and implementing online exercises with automated feedback, I got the idea of creating a set of regular online activities for the students that could help to reach our goal. So here you can see a chronological integration of the new course elements. In the first week, students get access to the so-called self-evaluation. This includes also a prior knowledge test. Then throughout the next weeks of the semester, students solve in every 1-2 weeks quizzes. Every second week, they are submitting some summaries. Before the exam, they write a mock exam. And they have also an online exam preparation via Zoom. The mock exam is not an online exam. So the other additional elements, they are composed of online tasks, but the mock exam is an exception because we really wanted to mimic the real exam. So we wanted to make it as similar as possible to the actual exam. So students get for the mock exam a set of exercises that they can download, and then we recommend to reserve 90 minutes as for the real exam. And after solving the exercises, they can scan their solutions and upload it to the learning platform to be then corrected by their peers. Yeah. And in addition to this, we have some questionnaires. We have a mid-semester questionnaire and a final questionnaire, where we are also collecting additional psychological variables, for example, learning behavior and time management. Now let's take a look at the same course elements from another point of view, rather from the point of view of the aims that we would like to reach with them. So we know that the more students engage with a new topic, the better their knowledge will be consolidated. So therefore, it was very important for us to promote regular studying sessions. And to achieve this, we created a set of individual pre-processing activities. Here belongs the prior knowledge test and the preparation quizzes. And we have a set of individual post-processing activities as well, where students can deepen their understanding and practice the new skills, namely in the training quizzes, and they can ease the preparation for the exams by creating every second week summaries, respectively evaluating the summaries or giving some peer feedback on the summaries of 2 peers every second week. In addition to these aspects, we invite students to a self-reflection several times throughout the semester indeed. And then on these occasions, we are focusing on such aspects which can have an impact on the final performance of the students, like attitude towards mathematics, role and relevance of mathematics for their major subject, level of subjective understanding, the invested time, the invested effort, learning behavior, time management, and the reflection on their own learning process. Now, let me continue by telling you a couple of words about the implementation. So we used, for creating the exercises, we used Stack, which comes in form of a plugin. And by integrating it into EAMS, into the learning platform of University of Bern, we are able to create a more varied set of exercises which are more suitable for assessing mathematical knowledge and skills. So Stack, for those who don't know it, it's a system for teaching and assessment using a computer algebra kernel. It's open source, and it was especially designed for mathematics. And the good thing of this tool is that we are able to evaluate numerical and algebraic expressions by that. Another very beneficial aspect of Stack is that we can parameterize the exercises, which means that each student is going to solve the same exercise, but with different numerical inputs. Yeah, so it cannot happen that someone solves the exercises and then just everyone completes the solution for these online tests by taking over the solutions from this student. And where it's possible, we really try to integrate some parameterization. Here you see on the left-hand side how an exercise typically looks like in our environment. Here we are rather evaluating some theoretical concepts, and students can select one option from a drop-down list, and then they get the feedback on it as well. And then on the right-hand side, you see a piece of Maxima code by which I generated the random variables behind this problem. Okay, now students who decided to take part in these additional activities had the possibility to get some bonus points for it. And here you see the criteria. Yeah, so the prior knowledge test and the mock exam, these were compulsory for getting these bonus points. But then in case of preparation quizzes and training quizzes, we introduced a certain level of tolerance, because it can happen throughout the semester very easily that you miss out some of these activities, especially if you have a short deadline for them, as for the preparation quizzes. Yeah, here we wanted to make sure that students do the preparation quizzes before they come to the course. And that's why the deadline for completing this was relatively short. Okay, and now let's see the engagement of students, or the level of involvement of them. These activities were all optional, so students could decide whether they want to take part in them. Nevertheless, about 2/3 of students wanted to do all these tasks, and indeed completed also the tasks. Then just 8% tried to complete the tasks but didn't manage to. And then there is about 25% who either didn't involve from the very beginning, or they started and gave up very early. And then before going to the empirical evidence, let me show you a couple of aspects that we understood from students' feedback. So at the end of the semester, students completed an anonymous survey. All the other parts of these new activities, they were not anonymous, because we wanted to provide the possibility of giving them bonus points. But of course, for the survey, for the feedback on this new course format, we wanted them to give this freedom of telling their opinion without their names. So they received here 14 statements concerning which they had to formulate the level of agreement or disagreement on a 4-level scale, whether they disagree, rather disagree, rather agree, or agree. And we learned about all these new components, that they find them in general useful. So specifically the pre-knowledge tests and the preparatory quizzes were evaluated as useful for assessing mathematical skills and knowledge, activating the existing knowledge and promoting reflection on the role of mathematics. And from 64 to 81% of students agreed or rather agreed with these statements. Then concerning training quizzes, students were telling that these enhance the level of understanding of the new content, and they help to develop and practice the new skills. Concerning the summaries, 64% agreed that these facilitate the exam preparation, and 70% considered the mock exam a good preparation for the end of semester exam. Now, overall, we were very happy to see that the majority of students, so over 90%, tells that the newly introduced course activities help them to stay on the track during the whole semester, and they would appreciate if other lectures would have a similar format. In addition to this, now some other aspects that were highly appreciated by the students. They really liked the automated feedback about the correctness of the solutions. They liked the organization of information on the platform, on the EAS platform. And they also liked that we were guiding them also by sending reminding emails about the upcoming deadlines, because there was quite a big set of new exercises. And sometimes at the beginning, they were also telling that they get a little bit lost, what they have to submit. Now I'm going to skip this slide just to spare some time. And before giving the word to Ursina, I'm just going to present the variables, so the data that we used to create the following model that Ursina is going to present. So from the pre-knowledge tests, we used the performance of the students and the attitude towards mathematics. From the quizzes, we incorporated into our structural equation model the performance and the time for solving the exercises, respectively the subjective effort, subjective understanding, and the used preparation materials. And from the mock exam, we used simply the performance. So this is just a part of our variables, and later we aim to explore also to understand better how the other collected variables are related to the performance and to the learning strategies, learning behavior of our group of students. Yes, and now I hand over the word to you, Ursina.
Thank you, Kinga. And first of all, thank you very much for having me here, even if I'm not a mathematician. I'm very happy to present you our findings. So for the course Kinga just presented, we looked at the data in the context of a structural equation model. Of course, other variables than the ones considered here were collected, but the variables you can see here have proven to be interesting in this context, so we have focused on them as a first step. So on the top right, you can see the sample size and the model fit. We were able to test this model on quite a large sample of 290 students. And now I don't know exactly how familiar you are with structural equation model and their fit indices, but we have a good model fit here, as you can see from the CFI, which is greater than 0.90, and the RMS AI and SRMR, which are both less than 0.08. But I don't want to go into more detail because that's not the most exciting part of this. So on the left side, you can see the structural equation model, and we see that performance in the formative assessment, which are these online exercises that students solve during the term, is strongly related to their performance in the final exam. So the better students are in the formative assessment, the better they are in the final exam. Furthermore, we see that prior knowledge, which was collected with a separate test at the beginning of the term, is strongly related to the performance in the formative assessment, as well as the performance in the final exam. All these findings are already well established. So, however, we also had a look at the attitude of students toward the subject. Indeed, we can see that the attitude towards mathematics and mathematical contents show a correlation with performance in both the formative assessment and the final exam. So it seems to be important whether students like such content and how they view their skills in this area. Here again, students with a more positive attitude towards mathematics achieve a better performance in the formative assessment and in the final exam. Or in other words, the ones that perform well are the ones with a more positive attitude. Further, on the far left of the structural equation model, you see that attitude and prior knowledge are significantly correlated, which makes sense in the way that the more you are interested in a specific subject, the more you engage with it, and the other way around. So the likelihood of having built up knowledge in the past is greater if you have more positive attitude towards the subject. To summarize, we have the performance in the formative assessment, the prior knowledge and attitude, which seem to be relevant for the performance in the final exam. So how much students prepare and how much effort they put into the respective task on the other hand, does not seem to be related to the performance whatsoever. Although preparation and effort are correlated, they do not show any relationship with performance when considered in isolation. These findings might come as a bit of a surprise, since one would naturally assume that level of effort and preparation would significantly influence the performance. But in our case here, we are dealing with a situation where the sample exhibits minimal variation in terms of attitude or preparation. As a consequence, it is difficult to identify any correlations. This appears to be a common problem in our research content, especially when it comes to higher education. Right, in conclusion, performance in the formative assessment as well as prior knowledge play a major role in the performance in the final exam. And we also see the importance of students' attitudes, which play a role in both performance in formative assessment and in the final exam. And now that we've uncovered these findings, let us delve into the profound implications they carry and how can we best support students in their learning and enhance their learning success. So by recognizing the impact and positive changes that can emerge from such assessment, it becomes evident that we must ensure the availability of these opportunities for all individuals involved. So first of all, such a possibility should be created in one form or another. Other studies of us show that the way the formative assessment are implemented is not what matters most, but rather that they are implemented in the first place. So we also see how important it is to pick up students at the beginning of the term. So prior knowledge plays such a central role. Therefore, existing knowledge should definitely be activated and linked to new content, like Kinga did in her course. At best, it should be done at the beginning of each term as well as before each new piece of content. And for those who have little, yes. Yeah. For those who have little or no prior knowledge, there should be a possibility to build up and catch up on this knowledge. Especially as subjects like mathematics have the reputation for being rather demanding and not so enjoyable. If you have rather a negative attitude towards the subject, you have several barriers. On one hand, understanding the content becomes increasingly difficult. On the other hand, it's uncomfortable to accept that you have to learn something you find irrelevant and that you dislike. So to ideally support learning and learning success, it therefore makes sense to create a learning atmosphere that is as pleasant as possible. This will promote students' interest and curiosity for the subject, so it's critical for students to find the support they receive useful, helpful, and enjoyable. Not only does this help them actively engage with the subject, but it also contributes to fostering a positive attitude towards it. Therefore, it's essential to consider and include the needs of students when developing and implementing formative assessment. But of course, all students learn differently and have individual needs. With these formative assessments, we would like to build a good foundation whereby students can take out what they need. So the aim is to create a broad range of courses that can be used individually to provide students the best possible support. So considering that learning is a never-ending story and that today's learning affects tomorrow's learnings, it becomes essential to prioritize an environment that actively supports and enriches the learning process.
Thank you very much. So let me take over the word just to conclude our presentation by the future perspectives. So as I mentioned already before, we plan to analyze the unused data as well to have a better understanding of students' learning behavior and to see how the other variables correlate with their performance and learning strategies. We would like to adjust the newly introduced course activities as well according to the feedback that we respectively received already from the students. And finally, we would like to plan a personalized intervention aimed to enhance the learning outcome by adjusting students' learning strategies. And now here you see all the people that had a contribution to our work. You see that this is not a one-person project. We are very thankful for the whole team that supported us throughout the implementation, especially to Natalie Borter, who is an engaged advocate of learning analytics and who has infected also us indeed, to Stefan Trosch, to our boss, who supports us by creating the framework, which makes our work possible. For the Billern Center, this is a Swiss competence center whose objective is to advocate digital education through a translational approach. And Billern, together with Vice Rectorate of Teaching, they supported financially this project as well. And furthermore, we were very happy that we had the support of the IT team of the university. They integrated the Stack plugin and they are managing it as well. And we are also very thankful for an e-coach who had to develop all those kind of data processing code that was missing to aggregate all these all students' performances in this big varied set of newly introduced activities. So thank you very much for your interest in our talk, and we are happy to answer any questions you have.
So thank you, Kinga and Ursina, for your really very interesting presentation, and because you explained the motivation, but also what is your action and how you use learning analytics in improving the conditions for learning and motivate your students to learn better and more. Let me just check if I have, if there are any questions in a chat. Not right now. Okay, so if you have any questions, just please write them in the chat, but you can also raise your hand and you can ask the questions here. In the meantime, I'm using my position as a chair for this session just to say that, we discussed before this presentation, the three of us waiting for the audience to join, how important it is to make a good presentation and motivation for students that are not studying mathematics to understand, to be engaged, to be motivated, and actually to push them close to the achievement of learning outcomes in a positive way. So I myself also have very similar setting for the first year courses with quizzes that are automatically given to students and also some homeworks and so on. So I'm really happy that you explain it and also support with the data this model. I have the question about the SEM model that Ursina showed, because I'm not sure if I understand what does it mean effort. If you can just go back to the slide with that SEM model.
Right.
It is a little bit
effort that was just after every assessment. They got the questions, how many effort do you put in?
So it is a not that you're asking then how many ECTS, how many working hours, but you just ask them if they invest more or less or something like that. What is the question about? How you actually how you formulate the question about the effort?
So the question about effort was at the end of every task, and it was like, how much effort do you put in solving this task? And they had like no effort at all, a bit effort, very much, and everything I could. And that's what you mentioned about how many hours did you read, or that's all in the preparation.
So it's preparation, but also preparation and effort actually in your model actually didn't imply any effect on performance, or a small effect.
We have very minimal variation. All students put a lot of effort and a lot of preparation, so we have not that much variation. That's a problem that we have a lot in this context, especially in higher education. We see that when it comes to consciousness, there is no variation. All are in the top. So
they are all claiming that they are using all possible learning materials. They attend the lectures or they watch the podcasts afterwards. They get involved also in the on-site exercise classes and so on. So they claim to do everything possible. So there we don't really see a big variance. And also concerning effort, that's a kind of subjective opinion on how much they invest, and all of them tell that I do everything I can.
That's the reason I asked that, because when we ask our students about it, then we ask them to estimate time on task for preparing, I don't know, some homework, some quiz to solve something, because then if they ask them to say if they are investing 1, 2, 3, 5 hours on that, then probably we'll get a better variation. But yeah, I can see your point. Yeah, that's right. Let me just check if there are some other questions, because I have many of them.
We have still one variable that we collected at the end of the semester, in the end of semester survey, where students do an overall reflection about their learning process. And there we also ask how many hours did they invest throughout the whole semester, or how many hours did they invest after the end of semester and just as exam preparation. So there we have more information, and maybe here we will have more accurate data.
Okay, yeah, I agree. We have one question here, even though organizers are not very happy when we are taking questions from the meeting chat, but the chat that it is specialized for that. But the question is about, do you have empirical evidence that the course format promotes self-regulated learning?
That was our goal. We didn't test that explicitly yet. We have just some feedback from the students concerning this. So in the feedback survey, they had the opportunity to give us their opinion on any aspect of the course. And there, from some students, we received this feedback. I mean, for sure, in case of this course, it helps them to stay on track. That's what we have seen. Later on, we don't know how does it impact their learning strategies in general. But we plan to ask them as well. So this is a 2-semester course, and we developed this new course format just for the first semester. And we want to keep it that way, because we would like also to test, to ask students then in the second semester whether they tried to continue to use similar approaches for learning also in the second semester, even when these were not explicitly provided for them. So whether they try to organize a similar learning environment. And for example, we are also recommending them to write the summaries in groups, and to clarify their questions also in learning groups. And I can imagine that this can help them to bring these habits also further and apply them also in the second semester course, respectively, maybe in other courses. But this happens to a certain level. It happens also automatically or naturally. Students need to learn how to learn, right? And through these tools, we just want to show them how is this possible. And yeah, we are hoping that they learn and they apply it in the next semesters. But as this was tried out first, this was implemented first in the fall semester of 2022, we don't really have any data about the long-term effects of this course format.
Yeah, we have rather similar model for the last 15 years, and so we can compare it. And yeah, maybe we can discuss it a little bit on the comparison, but I agree that sometimes it's a problem when how to to prepare a model that is going to be sustainable. And what Ingo also asked, how are we sure that we are helping them on the long run, or we are just supporting them too much? Ingo, would you like to comment a bit more on that?
Yes, maybe you can tell what aspects are you more interested in, or maybe you have a personal experience with it.
Yeah, well, what surprised me with it that the whole course seemed to be rather directed. So students had to do certain things, and there were just some points where they didn't have to do all, where they could do had some variation. And so I know how difficult it is, just especially for beginner students who are not used to self-regulated learning from school, to make the first steps into self-regulation. Therefore, I'll be interested to hear your ideas how this might be achieved, maybe by personalization or more flexibility in the course, where students can experiment with self-regulated learning and reflect on their success with certain things and discuss alternatives among them about their learning processes. These are some ideas that come to my mind.
Actually, on this aspect, I can tell you something more, because this is just one of the courses.
Kinga, I think that I don't hear you very well. I don't know for the others. Maybe
no, I finished with what I was saying. So she was, I think the authors are trying to answer already. And it was their sound that got broken for me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Inga, can you hear us? Kinga, sorry. Because at some point we lost you.
Sorry.
I don't know. I think that the connection is broken. Yeah, we can see you now again. And
I don't know what happened. Probably we had some problem with our internet. Yeah. So sorry for that. We heard the first part of the question. So I tried to react to that. So we use a similar approach for other courses as well. So this is not the only course where we introduced these new elements. And actually, our goal would be to be able to give personalized advice to students on how to improve their learning outcome. And one possibility for this we see in providing them additional exercises.
mm-hmm.
And of course, they can then decide whether they want to do these exercises or not. Now, concerning this, in another course, we observed that depending on the time investment and their performance on these online tasks, it can make sense to solve additional exercises or not. So if, for example, they invest very little time and they have also a bad performance, of course, we would recommend them that if they have bad performance in these formative assessments, that will imply that also in the final assessments, they will have bad performance, right? And in this case, we will recommend them to invest more time and first try to understand the basics, and just afterwards invest even more time into additional exercises. Yeah, so this is one aspect that we are currently considering for already planning some intervention in case of another course where we got evidence for the correlation between this time performance, respectively time investment, and the final performance on the actual exam.
Mm-hmm.
Ursina, would you like to add something?
Ursina, would you like to add something?
Yeah, it's like we implemented also formative assessment in psychological assessment in the first year bachelor, and then after for the master. And in the first, it's not obligatory. They can use it if they want, and they don't have, they don't get extra points. They don't get, so it's more free and more flexible. But they use it, and they love it, and they say it's very useful, and they can track. We implemented at the moment a dashboard where they can see where they stand, how much they answered right, and where are the problems, and if they want to make some supplement exercises and all that on. And there's less guidance, and it goes well at this point. So
also in case of this math course, we didn't, these bonus points were just to motivate them additionally, but first of all we explained them why these additional exercises, why all these activities could enhance their learning outcome. And they got also a list of tips on learning strategies on the site of the course. So they were quite guided, right? That's true, I completely agree. Still, they had the possibility to say no to all these additional exercises. So they were not compulsory in any sense. And in comparison, so the bonus points that they got for solving all these exercises and taking part in all the other activities, these were little in comparison to the points that they could accumulate on the final exam. So at the end of the first semester exam, they could accumulate a total of 35 points. And also at the end of the second semester exam, 35 points can be accumulated, and they got just 5 bonus points for working regularly throughout the semester on all these activities. So that's very little. That's less than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Besides this, it's also what I see is that students are very anxious. They come and they have mathematics, they have statistics, they have diagnostics, psychology, assessments, and if you guide them and give them the opportunity of formative assessment, they are so grateful, and they can relax a bit because they know, okay, I don't have to do it all by my own. And it's very, very important for their attitude towards the subject that they feel guidance, and that they see, oh, here is someone, they want to help me, and there are some exercises, some supplement exercises, and that's very good for the atmosphere of learning for them, just to have the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Ingo, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I would like to focus a bit on a particular aspect, is particular to Ursina. I think she's has the background for the model, and I appreciate very much the work you did in setting up this this model that you can then empirically evaluate. My question is, which kind of data would you collect to evaluate the level of self-regulation that the student has achieved?
Would you like to respond, Ursina, or
we didn't hear anything.
Actually, it was the question was what kind of a data we are going to collect in order to actually estimate the level of self-regulation. I don't think that if you don't hear us, we are almost at the end of with our call. What we can, how we can proceed. Inge, would you like to just type your question into the matrix, and I'm also having some additional remarks and suggestions, so you can follow that later. Respond that in the matrix. Yeah.
So Can you put the URL to the metrics into the chat? That would be convenient.
I think that let me just, I'll do it once more, because I just opened, this is the link. So this is the link. So just click on the link, and then at the bottom,
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll
So
do
we can proceed. We can proceed with chatting in this format later. And now we are very near the end, and we have a small problem with the connection. So let me thank Ursina and Kinga for the presentation. It was very interesting, and then yeah, we are continuing our conversation in chat. So thank you also for all of you coming and participating in this session. Yeah, so thank you all very much.